Hey y'all, let's make something. For this project, we're gonna need a couple things. I call this my flower box because it has all my stuff that I do my silk flowers in. But I've already pulled out what I'm gonna need. For this project, you're gonna need a paper plate. Now this is a styrofoam paper plate. I like these, they just hold up better. You could use any kind of paper plate though. All right, then we've got a bunch of flowers in different colors, some ribbon, and you're probably going to want to have some popsicle sticks. These are the ones I've got. And of course, you're going to need your hot glue and your hot glue gun. And you may have noticed that I do a lot of videos from my bed. This is my bedroom. It's a mess. It's a disaster. But this is my hangout space, and I just like hanging out here. This is my comfort zone. And so I do a lot of my videos from my bed just because I love sitting on my bed, and it's my little getaway area. So the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to cut the center out of your paper plate. And you can find something to trace to make the circle if you wanted to. I just eyeball it. I try to make sure I don't cut too far close to this because I want to be able to reinforce it and be able to use the whole thing. So just try to cut it like right to this where it bends over it here, but not to the actual bend. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take some hot glue and some of the sticks, and we're going to hot glue them like this to give this some stability. Now when you're doing this, you're going to notice that you're not going to be able to glue the edges right down because it's curved, and they're not curved. I cut them in half, and that makes it easier, but primarily I glue the middle of it down, and then I might add a little bit to the edge. This is really just to give it some stability and some strength. Now once you've got your sticks on pretty good, and like I said, they're not going to stick all the way flat. They're not, because this is curved, and they're not going to do that. You could cut them in half again, and they would stick down a little bit better, but really it's just to give it some stability. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to choose some ribbon, and I'm going to use a lot of pink ribbon. I've got lots of pink ribbon. I got a little bit of yellow. If I need it, I have some of this awesome turquoise color here. But you're going to wrap the front. You're going to wrap the whole thing in the ribbon, just around and around and around until you cover the whole thing up with ribbon. So I start with a little bit of hot glue here to hold it in place, and I'm going to go around the whole thing until I've covered up the whole wreath. So you can see here I've got part of it done. This was not a whole roll of ribbon, it was just a little piece I had. I'm going to continue with the other pink, and if I need it I'll do some yellow. It doesn't matter if the whole background is one color or not because you're going to cover it up. So now we've got our wreath frame finished. You've got the paper wrapped all the way around, and what it does, it really helps again to give it a little more stability and makes it look a lot better than having popsicle sticks stuck to a paper plate. It looks a lot better than that. Now this is of course really useful whenever you don't have a wreath frame and you want to make a wreath, you don't have a wreath frame. And this could also be really useful to do if you wanted to do this with like a group of people, like a bunch of children, or if you wanted to go to a nursing home and do this with some people, or just some girlfriends want to sit around like a bachelorette party or something and make wreaths. This would be really fun for something like that. The next thing you have to do is prepare your flowers, and because this is not an actual regular wreath frame, it's not a styrofoam wreath frame or a wire wreath frame, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hot gluing these straight onto this ribbon. So this piece here, this long piece here, this has to come off. It has to be flat to the bottom like this. It needs to be completely flat to the bottom so you can directly glue them onto the paper plate. Okay, so sometimes when you do this, you're going to see that this part's going to kind of come loose here. And if that happens, you're going to want to take this off, put you some hot glue here, and glue this piece back on. So as you can see here, what I've done is I've got these first three glued on. And I like to work in odd numbers when I'm doing something like this. So I just start with the three biggest ones and work my way around. I also put these close to the edge to make the wreath look a little bit bigger. Okay, so I've got all my flowers glued on now. And I think it looks really pretty, but there's something missing. And if you know me, you know what it is. It's missing sparkle. So I'm going to get some glitter, glues and paints, and I'm going to add some glitter to the center of all of the sunflowers. So I think I have enough flowers left over to do another one, and I wanted to show you how to do it with a different kind of paper plate and a different kind of a technique to do it. So instead of using popsicle sticks on this one, I used barbecue skewers, and I just cut them up in little pieces and hot load those on. Now, I'm big on using what you've got and getting creative with what you already have and not just going and buying a bunch of stuff. So when you're doing projects like this, I always think, what do I have that might work? Even if you don't have exactly what I use, you can always think, well, what do I have that might work? So what I've done this time is, instead of wrapping it on top of itself, the ribbon, I've wrapped in the little gaps, and I'm going to go back and put the yellow ribbon where the gaps are. And this is a fancier way of doing it. It's just a little fancier. And when you do it like this, it's really pretty, but when you get all the flowers on there, you're probably not going to really be able to see it. But it is really pretty this way. Okay, so this one is a little different because, again, I did a different kind of paper. I did different kinds of arrangement of the flowers. It's a little less symmetrical, and personally, I prefer symmetrical arrangements, but some people like a little asymmetrical kind of thing going on. One thing I also added was these leaves that you see here. These were from another project that I saved. And like I say, save everything as a crafter. You never know when you're going to want to use it for something. Now for the loop that I hang these with, what I do is I just take a ribbon, hot glue it down like this, and then you can do it on a hook. You can put it on a wreath hanger or just a regular, a hook on the wall, anything. You can even hang this over like a doorknob. And it'll work really good. I try to make them nice and big so that I could hang them over just about anything. And there you go. So here are the two finished wreaths. Now these could be hung together in the same area. They're a little different, so you might want to hang them right next to each other. But again, they could be hung in the same kind of area. They have similar flowers, similar size. This one, you can see the sparkle. I did add the sparkle. Look at the sparkle. I love the sparkle. And that's how they look.